What's up, guys? This is another video. I'm not sure if I'm covering the speaker or not, but let's go. So this is what if issei. Sorry about the noise in the background, y'all. People just being loud, kind of sucks out here. Anyway, so this is what if issei had Black Air Force energy. Now, the only way I feel safe doing this one is like difficult because we have to make him an absolute mean dude, but we ain't really trying to make him a hateable character. It's like trying to balance it, which is difficult. So instead, we're making him a lady killer for one, which really ain't a lady killer, because they kind of get it. We're making him a savage for two, kind of difficult to do, but we can find a way. And for three, we're making him have some of the best friends in the world. So, like, he knew Irina, and Irina knew him from when they were little. And Irina knew about Issei's habits, about fighting all the time and being a hero, wanting to be that guy. But he never really cared about being the hero. He just didn't want to be no villain. He wanted to be an equalizer, to stop the fight with his own fight. He wanted to have a good fight. That was it. And Irina kind of was impressed by this. And she had a crush on him back then, but she never told him that stuff. So whatever. Anyway, let's get to the video. Back as he's basically waking up for school one day, he grabs his black ones, and he doesn't even grab his school jacket or school shirt. He just grabs his red tee, and he starts walking to school, doing his thing, hands in his pockets, not caring at all. But he ain't gonna be late, because he just doesn't care to be late. So, there's 3 rules he has at Kuo. 1, don't mess with the student council. 2, don't mess with the Kendo Club. And the 3rd rule is don't mess with issei. These 3 rules are kind of intertwined, as issei, he actually likes the Kendo Club and the Student Council. In this version, the Student Council is all girls. And that one dude, that one dude who talked smack to issei and tried flirting with Asya right in front of issei, the one who apparently had a crush on Sona, yeah, that's actually a chick in this version who actually likes issei. And we also got that one, perverted girl in class that kept trying to get, Asya to do perverted stuff. And actually managed to get her to do a little bit of perverted stuff. But anyway, she actually knows issei way better in this version. Actually, they kind of a thing. That's his main chick right now. And she knows that she's his main chick, which makes it where she can get away with whatever she feels like. She can walk up to anyone in school and smack them, and no one is going to say nothing to her. It would take either the Occult Research Club to try to say something, because they were some people that even issei wasn't going to mess with. Or, and that was mainly just because he, didn't feel like it, because Sona said how Reese was her best friend. The Student Council, because issei wasn't going to stop them from punishing someone. Because, his second, girl was Sona herself. And that's only because issei was able to beat her in a game of chess. Which, he's actually super genius when he feels like it, but he doesn't want to do that all that often. He just did it with her, because that's how he kind of has to pass the time whenever he's, explaining what happened, if he gets into a fight with her, if he gets into a fight with people at Kuo, so yeah. Now, issei has black Air Forces, but Mitsuda has black Felais, and Motohama has black Tims. Now, most people think those two are way above black Air Forces, but nah. Nah, they equals in this version. In fact, black Air Force is a little bit above it. It's the even match between the two. While black Felais are all about disrespect, and black Air Force and black Tims are all about stomping someone out, black Air Forces are that perfect in between of the two. And I'm gonna say that, yeah, that's kind of the thing. And the black and ones, which are in this version a thing, is actually kind of how do I want to put this? They're kind of all about just sheer disrespect. While, the black felines in this version are all about punches. So if you're rocking black Air Forces, you have the power of all 3 of those combined into one. It's kind of one of the rules I'm making up for this. Now, Nah, scratch that. The black hair ones are not really a thing. Now, this girl that Issei's with, that really perverted girl, she actually doesn't use her rank as Issei's #1 girl at all, unless she really needs it. Because, like, other schools know who Issei is. Even their most dangerous gangs know who Issei is and don't want to mess with him. Because if Mitsuda, Motohama, and Issei have to go swing hands at people, they taking people out. And most schools know that, since at any given point people have messed with them, they have gone and ran the ones with that entire school. Now, put stuff in perspective, Mitsuda and Motohama are about 3 times the average human. But either of them could take on 3 average guys. Issei can take both of them on at once like it was nothing. And that nerd girl, like, the perverted one, she was, like, really surprised. Because she's powerful. She knows things, like, she's basically whatever. What I'm trying to say is, she has actually been, gotten snuck up on by, like, a few guys from other schools trying to flirt with her, and she had said no, back off, and they didn't listen until she said, do it or I'll get Issei here in 10 seconds flat. Them never believing this, the guy never believed this, and she straight up just hit her phone and called. First thing that happened was, it was like, what's up? Where you at? I'll be there in about 10 minutes. I'll be about 20 seconds flat. And he just hangs up the phone. And then he just kicks on the black one and takes off running. Now, he's also got a motorcycle. If it's far away, he'll kick on that thing. Now, they said, oh, really? I ain't see him. Where is he at? If he just got out. And they just hear a motorcycle revving up in the distance. They're like, what the? Man, who's got a motorcycle on like this time of night? And they're like, oh, no. As they hear the roaring of a motorcycle, they're like, no. It is the hidden dragon of Kuo. Because as they see a red flash, because the motorcycle's red, this is Issei's daily fit. Out of school grounds. Minus the boosted gear, of course. Now, I'm just going to go with this one because it looks so good. So, yeah. Well, anyway, Issei is just straight up. He pulls up, and the first thing he does is run one punch right on the leader and just send him flying. Second in command goes to take a swing at Issei with the metal pipe. He did a Mikey 3000 roundhouse kick. If you don't know what that is, check out C-Day to Champ on the Tokyo Revengers, like, Black Air Force thing. He did Mikey's kick, straight up taking out the second in command, which was a tall dude. And the third dude, he was a little bit smarter. He was faster than everyone else, but he wasn't that good. Now, this gave that girl, like, a time to call up Mitsuda and Motohama, since, they kind of part of the crew. And Issei's being, like, straight up there trying to jump him. They actually get a few good hits off, and a few actually get able to cut him. Now, not actually a full-blown stab, but able to at least cut him a little bit. They'll be able to scratch his body a little bit now. Issei's rule is, like, don't mess with the girls he likes, which is the Kendo Club, this girl, and, the student council, because, like, those are his, like, 3 groups. His 3 things, like, do not mess with them. Now, they made that one mistake of messing with them. Now, even if these guys are his best friends, like Mitsuda and Motohama, he does not tolerate nothing. So, yeah. They pull up, and they see Issei they see him dripping blood with his red shirt torn to shreds. And they're like, oh, no. And Issei keeps, like, 3 spare ones, like, on his bike at all times. As he's, like, running the ones with that last guy, who basically grabbed a steel pipe and went to swing it, and actually got Issei's arm, just so Issei could punch him in the face. And knock him clean out, and he asked if she was okay. And she actually said, am I okay? You're the one bleeding right now. Let's get you to your house. Now, Issei's parents were kind of used to him having to come home, like, bloodied, beaten, occasionally pretty battered. He also rocked this fit every now and again. Of course, it had the red shirt. Now, we're not gonna say that it was gonna be an easy thing for Issei to do, but it was a thing he would do. Now, he wouldn't ever go out with the girl like as his main girl, but he would let any girl be a side chick. Now, this was like, so we're going to skip a day because actually, you know what? No, we're not gonna skip this day because it's an important one. So, Issei is, doing his normal thing. He grabbed some food, just eating some food. Nothing out of the ordinary for him. It's a little bit after school. He just wanted to grab a snack, and he does. But he's still on campus because, like, they got a campus store he can go buy food at. He's doing his normal walking thing, and he doesn't see anything wrong. Whenever he straight gets a call from that girl being like, "Hey, yo, go to the Kuo Club. Go to the Kendo Club." And he's like, "Aight." Now, he walks up, and he sees the student council, the Kendo Club, and that one girl all standing there. And he says, "What's going on?" And, hold on a second, guys. Alright, guys, I'm back. I just had to look up the names since I'm going to be using it so much. So, yeah, the student council, the Kendo Club, and Aika Kiryu, which is her name, which is hard to pronounce, are all there. And Issei asks what's going on as he sees his two friends getting beaten up by all three groups using kendo sticks. By these girls, and he says, "What's going on?" And then they said, "Issei." He says, "What's up?" They were caught perving on us. And the student council said they were caught peeping on them whenever they were changing to do their normal workouts, which were just, a little bit of running, to keep them in shape after school. He says, Kendo Club, what happened? Kendo Club, the other one was caught peeping on us, doing our Kendo warm-ups. And he's like, Aika, what happened with you? They ran up to me, trying to hide, and it upset me. I see what's going on here. Y'all ain't gotta worry about this. Y'all can just go back to what y'all were doing. I'll handle this. Issei starts saying this, and they're like, "Aight." And then Sona said something. Issei, come to the student council room when you're done with this. How long should that take? Maybe 20 minutes. Aight, makes sense. And you two, when you're done with this, go home or to the hospital, whichever one you need to. And then Aika said, "Well, bye." The Kendo girls went back to their practice, and they were like late leaving and all that. And Issei is just like, I told you three, a simple thing. 1, do not mess with the girls. What did y'all do? Y'all messed with all of the girls. And they were like, "Issei, buddy, we weren't trying to mess with your girls. We were just trying to perv on the swimming team. But we wound up walking by them whenever we was done. When we was trying to run from the swimming team. You gotta believe us, man. Aight, where's the swimming club then? Probably still at practice. Aight, so if I go over there right now, they're gonna say, yeah, they caught y'all perving, and then y'all just took off without getting beaten to crap." And then they're like, fair point. And then he said, "You know what? Get y'all's weapons ready. We about to run these ones. We about to run that fight." And they're like, "Man, Issei, do we have to? Y'all know the rules. Come on." And they're like, "Fine." As Mitsuda got on some brass knuckles, one for each hand, and Motohama, the dude with glasses is Motohama, he grabs a steel pipe, which is kind of bent in the shape of a baseball bat, but it's like steel, so it's still like a good bit more painful to get hit by. Now, he said, "Oh, and one other thing. Cause y'all's little squabble, you may have not noticed this, y'all got something on my shoes." They look down and they see a scuff of dirt on the side of his shoe. And they're like, "Issei, buddy, we can talk." Aight. As they both gear up to fight, Mitsuda Monohama actually, for once, hands, they didn't have their weapon, they drew a little knife each. Mitsuda grabbing a switchblade, and Motohama grabbing a butterfly knife. Both going to fight Issei as best they can, as Issei doesn't even pull a weapon out. He goes to ball his fists up and went boom, boom, boom. And they started a 20-minute fight, which took Mitsuda out the fight and Motohama right after him. As they were both laid out on the ground, completely torn to shreds, with their weapons bent or broken, but not the knives. Issei took the knives and grabbed his red shirt, wiping the blood off of each of them and stabbing them down towards the ground. Mitsuda and Motohama said, "Thank you for not breaking the knives. Y'all are still my crew, so I'm not going to break the knives we have. But don't ever let me catch y'all doing this again." And they said, "Yes, sir." Now, at this point, we get a pan back to Issei. Now, he always wears that red t-shirt, so it's hard to see, like, a different look. But then, we notice something. He's got cuts, scratches, and scrapes all on his body. Even a few bumps and bruises. Now, his red tee is torn to shreds. All it's got basically left is a collar and a bit of is barely any fabric holding it together. But you can clearly see the slashes and cuts all over it. But then, you see something unexpected. He puts his hands in his pockets, and he calls the student council, said, "Hey, I'm going to the student council now." And someone was like, "Alright, Tsubaki will let you in, just come on." As Issei knocks on the door, like 2 minutes later, she goes in there, is like, "Why do you always do this, Issei?" And he said, "I don't know." As she said, "Here, throw it in the bin," which she pulled like a bucket out. And she never fixes his shirts, but she kind of keeps them afterwards, and he understands this, he doesn't care. He straight up just took off his bloody shirt, and he just threw it to her. She caught it, and she was basically just kind of hugging the shirt, and he said, "Whatever. So, you want me to explain what happened?" And she said yes. As he said that he gave them a thorough beatdown and told them if they ever do it again, that he wouldn't go so easy on them. And she asked what injuries everyone sustained most likely. And he said, for Mitsuda, probably 3 cracked ribs and a busted lip. And 1 black eye. Motohama, 4 cracked ribs, no black eye, but 1 busted lip. Alright. The steel pipe Motohama had was bent, and the brass knuckles were kinda, dented. Saying, "Alrighty." Now, she was actually kind of surprised on how he was able to do that, since, she seems to get surprised every single time, even for no reason. Saying, "Wait, how did you bend brass knuckles?" He went to swing at me, and I wound up moving, so he actually wound up hitting a brick wall. Hearing this, she was like, "Oh, makes sense. That would leave a dent in them." Now, Issei then took the brass knuckles and the steel pipe, which he kind of had both of them in his hands, which he kind of carried both of them, and gave him to Sona and said, "Could you get rid of these for me?" And she said, "Sure." Now, this meant that she could see, like, the kind of bruise on... She could see all the beaten and bloodiedness on him. And she actually then proceeded to, like, take, like, bandages. And even though he was cut up pretty badly, they didn't see anything needing... They thought he may need stitches, but he said, "No, I'll heal fast, don't worry about it." As she starts, like, getting into her drawers and grabbing all the bandages, and actually wraps Issei up from, like, the bottom of his stomach all the way to the top, because that's where all the injuries were. Like, he was covered in injuries. And he said, "Now, what were your injuries sustained?" Multiple, like, blade slashes, about 17. One large one across my chest that went from all the way down from his right shoulder down to like the left of his stomach. And multiple like bruised organs, bruises all over his upper body. A large gash to like a large swing on his back, which was a large like pole shape because it was like where the steel rod had hit him. Alright, and the last ones, about 7 cracked ribs. Her saying, it astonished me every time I hear your injury list. And he said, oh, I'll be fine. And she actually didn't tell Issei this, but she actually had every time he gets hurt enchants his like bandages so that he'll heal fast with a magic spell. Now, when he gets wrapped up and he goes home, his parents see him and they're kind of surprised, saying, again, you gotta do another fight. Makes sense. He called Mitsuda Monohama and said, yo, y'all good for tomorrow? Yeah, we'll be able to head to school, though a little bandaged up. He said, yeah, I get it, I'll be bandaged up too, my guys. And they were like, alright, makes sense. Now, you may think Issei lost that fight, but nah, that was just like all of like, that took them teaming on him to even do that much, and they were still struggling to do that. So yeah. Now, next day he doesn't actually make it home yet. He was just calling them as he was leaving Sona's office. But then, as, Rias was kind of sitting there, telling Koneko to follow him, as she was surprised on how much power this dude had. His punches may even be able to affect her, and his speed may even be able to keep up with Kiba. Wondering if he may actually be strong enough to stop them. But even only as human, surprising them. So, Koneko's still keeping an eye on him, and then something unexpected happens. He just started walking, and he met that same Yuma Amano. Now, she said, will you go out with me? And he said, I already got a girl, man, but you can be a side girl. And he said, and she was fine with this, and asked if he would like to go on a date that Sunday. He said, sure, why not? Now, this made he had to add her number to his phone and all that. He does that, and he walks, and she actually can sense the aura of this guy, and she can see that he's not even wearing a t-shirt. He's just wearing bandages covering his body, so he looks pretty injured anyway. Though she thinks this will be an easy thing. So that Sunday rolls around, and he just basically wears... I was thinking about making it this fit, but nah. He wears this fit. Right to the date. And he's feeling pretty good with himself wearing this, don't really care about none. But then, something unexpected happens. At the end of the date, after he got this weird flyer he just stuck in his pocket, he was just looking at Yuma Amano and says, as they were walking to the fountain, and he was basically thinking, it's pretty nice tonight. Now, he had showed his soft side around Yuma just a little bit. But then she did something unexpected at all. She straight up just went ring-a-ding-ding, just straight up went crazy and said, hey, would you die for me? And he said, honestly, probably not. And then he said, actually first he says, hold on, what do you mean by that? Maybe I misheard that. Say that again. And she said, would you die for me? And then he's like, actually, probably not. And she said, well, you'll need to die for me, for my plans to work. As she went into her fallen angel form, and he's like, what the fuck? And the first thing he thinks is, oh crap. And the first thing he does is ball his knuckles, As he sees that light spear going towards him, he tries to weave that. He barely weaves it while it scratches his stomach. Now, it's only been 1 day, so all these wounds and everything have not fully healed. But this tore up all the bandages, and they got sent flying off of him. Now, he was kind of surprised that this burn got him. But then, Yuma threw a spear that was twice as dangerous and twice as fast. It hit him in his chest. As he went down and hit the floor, his last thing was, "What? Why?" And she said, "You could be dangerous in the future. We had to get rid of you now." As Issei hit the floor, thinking, "Of course, this had to happen." Gritting his teeth, thinking in his head, "I'm really tired of seeing my blood today. But it kind of reminds me of that girl's hair. That Rias chick. Maybe I could try to go out with her, if I survive this." As his hand went limp, as he collapsed. He woke up the next morning, noticing there wasn't even a bruise on his chest. But he still felt like a good bit of pain there. Wondering what... But he thought it was just because of the injuries he already had. Now, Rias is remarking after he took all 8 pawn pieces, it was surprising to her that he was able to take that much power. Like, this was astonishing. Not only did he have to take on a fallen angel and actually was able to keep up for a second, even able to dodge one of the attacks, but already when he was so injured. Amazing. But then, something completely unexpected happened. When she was healing him, she noted that none of his smaller injuries could be focused on. She'd have to focus only on that big one in his chest, so his other injuries would look the exact same. As she had closed the hole, it was still very messed up. Now, this made it Issei would start walking, but he really wasn't expecting what would happen. He gets to school, does his normal school day, and that goes normal. And the next morning, he wakes up with Rias in his bed. He's kind of confused about this, and he actually says, "You that Rias girl, right?" "Yeah." So she just talks about something. He wasn't really caring. He was just busy ogling her the whole time. When his mom walks in, she's like, "Oh, my child, I'm so sorry for this," and then closes the door and tells Issei's father, and Issei's father is like, "Yeah, my boy, good job." And Issei's like, sweet. Now, Issei's first instinct when he woke up was to grab his bandages, like he kept by his bedside. Before he even put on like a shirt, he just wrapped himself up real good. After putting on some underwear and like his pants, he wrapped himself up real good, and then threw on another red tee he carried, which everyone's kind of surprised he's had so many of them. Because, like, they always see one torn up at the end of the school day, but then he has another one ready. They always just think, oh, his parents are that rich, they can just keep buying him red t-shirts, but really it's his own money from his own cash. Now, then we've got the whole thing with, oh dang, it's been 30 minutes, I barely got to the, thing with Yuma. So yeah, we got to the whole thing. Now, what we're talking about next would be the whole meeting, that group. Now, Sona, who basically, whenever Issei goes there after school, he sees Sona, and the entire student council is already in there, talking with Rias, exchanging stuff, talking. Kiba actually was the one Kiba and Issei got there last. So Issei's like, "What's good, student council president? What's good?" And then as her devil wings flashed, she was like, "Are you okay, Issei? I heard what happened. I'm sorry I wasn't there to get you." And he was like, "Wait, what? You know about that?" And then it was like, "Of course I do." And then Rias had said, "We are devils," and everyone's wings pop out. And then she said how her and Sona were actually high-class devils, and how this was each of their parages, as Rias is lying on one side, Sona's on the other. And Issei's like, I, makes sense. And then whenever Rhea said, you are now a servant to the House of Grimmery, and he says like, hold up. But I serve no one but myself. How's this gonna work? Well, the Grimmery House does a lot to keep our servants in mind, so basically all you'll have to do is, your jobs, we have to do those, and you'll also have to fight stray devils and kill them, and you'll also have to, in case of a war, be able to protect your master. Oh, okay. And that would make you, Rias, my master, right? Yes, but you'd also have to protect the rest of your group. My group, as in Kiba, Akano, and Konako. That's the names. Good. I see what's going on. So the hidden dragon of Kuo got with 2 queens, the mascot, and the prince of Kuo. So that's correct, right? Yes. Well, whoop-de-doo, you got a dragon on your team and doesn't now, and they're like, what do you mean, a dragon? And Issei said, well, I'll explain that soon. I'll have some trouble explaining that. As he kind of sunk his fist down, and then the boosted gear appeared in its first stage. And they're like, wait, if you had that, why didn't you use it on the fallen angel? Issei said, well, that's the thing. It takes a lot of time to, work with, and I haven't really mastered the thing yet. But he actually held it out for 5 minutes while explaining it, and then he held it out for a good bit of time while explaining it, and then boom, it transferred to its second variation. Boosted gear. Like I said, you'll have a dragon now. Confused about this, they're like, wait, what? You are the wielder of the boosted gear? Yeah. Mitsuda and Motohama have these special weapons too. Them being intrigued, saying, alright, what are theirs? You'd have to turn them into devils. And Sona then stated she has 3 pawn spaces left, so she could do that. We'll see about that. As those two as he called them up saying, come on. What about her? Rhea saying she did have a few spaces left. And then he says, thought about something. How about no. How about we just let them be humans? And whenever I can get a barrage, I'll introduce them and have them join mine. Saying that'd be a good idea. Now, Issei's thinking, doing his normal thing. And we're going to go to when he has to fight that, when the actual church event happens. In this version, it goes way different. Because Issei, now that he's so much stronger, the first thing that happens whenever they, see Freed is, he's like, hey, yo, Konako. And Konako's like, what do you want? Alright, do me a favor. Take this desk and throw it right at that creepy looking one. You really have a hatred towards that guy, don't you? And he said, dude stabbed me in the back 7 times and shot me in the foot. Do it. Konako's like, whatever you say, and then just goes, yeet. And he just falls right on Freed, and he's like, oh. Alright, who dat? As he sees Issei smirking with Konako just throwing it. And Issei just handed her another one. It's like, think you can run fast enough, boy? As Kiba came clear in there and went sword to sword with this guy. This stopping him in his tracks. He's like, no, not again. As he gets hit with another, bookshelf. And then he's like, you know what? I am out of here. Poof. And he just vanishes. Now, then he says they have to fight these other ones. Now, there's only 7 left out there, and Issei's first instinct was just to beat down on them, but he still had to go find Asya, and he knew she was down there, because of what Freed said. Now, they said, we'll be right there, man, as Issei jumped down the stairs, landing on his feet, and And he looked Rainier in her eyes saying, "Hey, remember me?" And he said, "Hey, remember me?" And she said, "You. How are you not dead? I'm pretty sure I killed you. Took 2 light spears. That's why I remember it." And he says, like, "Man, you thought 2 light spears could put me down? You missed one of them." "Oh, so you admit it was just me missing and not, you dodging it." "Oh, no, I dodged it. But that one didn't connect, so it's considered a miss." As she's like, "You know what? Taking the sacred gear." Grabs the rings and heals herself as Issei every hit didn't work at all. And then Issei's like, "Oh, I know exactly what to do for you. I know exactly what to do for you." As Issei went full force and started just wailing on her. Now, this made it where, like, he was absolutely destroying her. But this surprised it, just a little bit. As Issei pulled his head back and just slammed it forward into her face, as he was just going ham on her. Now, whenever Issei's assault was done, she healed herself and said, "Is that all you could do?" As he basically just took Asuya and ran up there, but still fighting as best of the ability. As the whole thing about, Rias and all them dragging them out and that whole thing happened, basically normal. But then whenever they revive her, hearing that she's going to be the bishop, he's actually pretty glad. Now, in this version, whenever they go to the familiar forest, the first instinct is he doesn't want to have to fight them, and they actually say, "Issei, y'all can go first." And Issei still wants a good companion that can help him with some stuff. He thinks maybe something liquid based that would make it a lot easier to mess with stuff, because liquid is a pain to get hit by, and he did need to work on that. So whenever a slime thing's attacked, Issei's thinking, "Hey, yo, I think I found out what I want to be as a slime. I want my pet to be." But then the little dragon came up and straight up attacked. And Issei was like, "Man, this motherfucking little dragon." As Issei geared up, put his gear on and then let the roar out and saying, "Little man, that took some balls to do. I'll let you in this one, but only this once." As they don't wind up getting Issei a familiar. But he really wants to just randomly grab one, as he really just wants to grab one that's really good, so maybe something like the Sprite or something, but he was thinking more like slimes and stuff like that, since they would just seem like easy ones to control. But he chose not to grab one at that moment, so yeah. Now, the whole thing happened with Riser, because Reese is just seeming to try to join Issei. Now, Kiba, in this version, he's like, "You know what, dog? Let's do some sparring." Because, Issei and Kiba, they first started off as "Man, you really, really, really acting like that basic knight trope. And you really, really, really want to beat the crap out of people, don't you?" Which and Issei had said these things to Kiba, and Kiba had responded with "You really do want to beat the crap out of people, right? Yeah, let's spar." Now they actually do wind up getting Mitsuda and Motohama to come up, because Mitsuda and Motohama never want to fight Issei barehanded, since every time they do they just get jumped, knocked out. Alright guys, back to the video. So yeah, all that usually happens is they get knocked out instantly, and then Issei said, "Dude, you know they actually know about the supernatural world, right?" And then he's like, "What?" As they said, "Yeah, we know about y'all being devils and stuff." And they're like, "Issei, you told?" And Issei says, Nah. See, Mitsuda's family, they're really big on shamans and stuff." "Wait, what?" "Yeah, they kind of do that." And Motohama, they kind of big exorcist family. They kind of got disgraced by his older brother. And they said, "Who's your older brother?" And he said, "Well, he don't really go by blood no more, so yeah, I'm just gonna say his name. Freed Selzen. Because in this version, Freed's actually his older brother. And he says, yeah, my older brother's Freed Selzen. Y'all may know him. I heard y'all had to deal with him not too long ago. I'm so sorry. Wait, that was your older brother? Yeah, he kind of went psycho and made it where the family kind of got kicked out. That's when he stopped being able to use our family name, so he just went as Selzen instead. Wait, really? Wow. Yeah, and then Ike Kiryu showed up and said, hey, I'm here. And this is when Ike said, oh, by the way, you'll also will be needing to dodge my attacks, as a bow appeared in her hand with magical arrows. And every single shot she threw was one so precise that it actually scratched Issei's face once or twice. Which Issei has to weave all these at full speed. Kiba's able to weave all of those, but not while getting bombarded by his attacks. By Mitsuda and Motohama. So, yeah, everyone has to basically swap up with what they're doing. Mitsuda and Motohama actually said, well, I guess we can bust out our gears too. Mitsuda busting out his, being that it is basically just brass. It is basically just brass knuckles. And it was actually twin dragons that this was taken from. One that was all about boosting his partner, and the other one that was about boosting his partner as well. Their power actually made them a threat to even Drake. They weren't Dragon Kings, but they were as close as you could be without being one. They were Dragon King level, they just weren't Dragon Kings. Now, then we have the Motohamas. Now, Motohamas is more of a pretty cool power. His is called Shadow Blade, which is basically just a dagger, which has its like knuckle coverings on it as well. But it only can make like 2 of them. Well, yes, it can make 2 at most, but like usually it has 1 of them with also a dog on your side, a shadow dog to help you fight, which it turns into like one big shadow dog, which will shrink down and like have like a little bit turning into a knife with like the brass knuckle things on it, which will turn into just 2 if need be. And if he really needed to, the balance breaker for the dog would just straight up become a giant Cerberus one with twin blades on his arms and armor going all the way down his like arms, down his legs, a little bit torso, and an open faced helmet. And like the balance breaker for Mitsuda's would be just straight up a fully armored like gauntlets. Brass knuckles turn into gauntlets. That would turn into gauntlets that would cover his arms, which came with a chest plate and light leg armor. It would basically turn in like gauntlets with Bel Crenel kind of armor from season 1 when he first got his armor. It didn't have heavy armor, but it was armor, that's why it was basically good to fight. And Ike Kiryu had like the bow was kind of part of her sacred gear. It was a kind of mystic arrow kind of thing. It would let her. It basically made arrow. You know how Kiba has blade summoning thingy? Well, Ike's is basically all about arrows. It basically allows her like perfect sight with projectiles, so she can shoot, launch an arrow, anything like that, and she has perfect aim. And the gear is basically called aimbot. It's not even, which she calls it aimbot, but its real name would be aim assist. It'd basically be considered the true aim, which it's not quite Longinus level, but it's pretty good. While there are 13 of them, there is 3 weapons that are considered as close Longinus level as possible without being it. And those would be these 3 powers. And if you're wondering where I got these from and from what part, I just made them up. So yeah. Now there was another what if that used the shadow dog theory and another what if, but not really a big deal on that one. So yeah. So, yeah, Issei's doing his normal thing, fighting as best as he can fight. And they were just doing their sparring sessions. But then, that night, is when when Rias pops up into his room and gets in bed with him. And he says, like, you sure about this? And she's like, yes, do it. Right when he's about to do it, boom, Grapia steps in, and the first thing she does is pull a blade out and put it to Issei's neck. And he says, like, what the fuck? And he's just completely astonished that anyone was able to get a blade to his neck. Kiba could barely even get a sword to him, and Issei would usually stop the sword. So he was completely sort of shocked by this. And the first thing he does whenever he feels this, and he's like, what's going on? And then Rias kind of explains, you'll find out tomorrow and everything at the club room, just come early. And he says, like, cool, I'll be there, lady. As she pulled the knife down and said, alright, let's go. Putting her knife back on her side. And Issei just cracks his neck saying, I really gotta be ready for tomorrow. Yo, Dre, let's do some nighttime training. Dre being like, man, okay, we can do that. And they do their training in the nighttime. And the next morning, Issei's like, yeah, that's so good after workouts. What? Issei goes in the shower, does his whole thing, walks with Asya, and they get there. Now, this is when Riser pops up, same way, and Issei's like, and he's smelling the air, and he's like, hey, I got a question. And they're like, what is it? And Riser just has a little bit of disrespect in his voice, like, oh, what does this one want? Nodding his head, and he says, like, can anyone else smell some burnt chicken? Or is that just me? And then you just hear, like, them all just cracking up a little bit. And he said, I think it's this new dude, the guy who looks like he's trying to act like a pimp. Man, how dare you? Issei said, how dare you assault my nostrils with your nasty smell? Man, don't you know what a shower is, man? Man, at least the person cologne, dang. He said, I'll have you know this is the finest, like, Phoenix cologne. And he said, man, it smells like burnt chicken wings, man. That's nasty, man. And this is when, like, this dude is pissed. So he goes to stab Issei. Like, he goes to get in Issei's, he's about to get in Issei's face. But then, he thinks of something. He wants to embarrass him, like, getting with, like, his master in front of Issei. So he's fondling around on Rias, and Issei's like, and Issei still said, you know what, douchebag? Man, that's fucked up. And then, boom, Riser makes his whole barrage appear. And Issei's like, dang, every single trope you could think of, he's got it. I wonder. And then he notices one that smells somewhat similar. He's like, yeah, this gotta be his sister. Kind of weird he would have her in his harem thing, but whatever. And he straight up states that this is his harem. And Issei, not caring at all, with his hands in his pockets, walks up and says, "Milady," and kisses his sister on the hand. And then actually, before even Luna got called by Riser, he said, "Madam, you as well," and goes basically throughout with respect. And they're like, oh, what a nice gentleman. And they said, "Master, whenever you do marry this woman, he's such a nice boy. It'll be amazing to have him on our side." And he says and then he said, "No. I'ma kill him. As Riser's thinking, I'ma kill him, so girls don't get too attached. But he's only gonna tell them this like right after they leave. Now, Issei went back to where he was and said, "Riser, keep your hands off. That ain't yours property. Man, all you acting like is she a trophy or something, man. Nah, don't do that." And then Riser said, "I am Riser. I'll do as I please, boy." As he said, sending his weakest one to go attack Issei. But Issei threw his boosted gear out and then jumped forward. And she went to take that swing, but she did something very stupid. She wound up stepping and grazing her foot across Issei's shoe. And he was wearing his black Air Forces. So the first thing that happened when she did this was Issei was like, "Nah," smacking his hand to the side, snapping her weapon and saying, "How dare you?" mean it. As she got on the floor, said, and vigorously apologizing, seeing how dominant he was against her. And she used her actual, she used fabric to clean it. And he was like, good. Now back to what I was doing. Riser. You want to talk like you're all that big stuff? Come here. We can run these ones then. Let's go. And then the whole thing happened. The rating game was decided. They had a week to train and all that. So they were like, I. Issei's first instinct, Rias had said, why would you do any of this? You just pissed him off. Issei's like, it was worth it. Besides, the whole point was I was going to piss him off. What do you expect? Fair. Well, now we gotta train. So Issei's first thing was like, well, Drake helped me make something. Alright, what is it? Before we start and take off, here, giving everyone a bracelet, which he had set to their own respective gravity levels, to a multiplier of a certain amount of gravity. Rias was, 2 times Earth's gravity, Akano was 2 times Earth's gravity, Asya was even 2 times Earth's gravity. And they were actually kind of surprised, because they were kind of, low things. They were struggling so much by it. Kiba, he went to 8 times Earth's gravity. And Konako, he set to 10. And then he told Akano, try powering using the power of the Rook. It'll help you. And the power of the Knight. And she said, alright. And she was able to push it and actually increased up her power to where she was able to handle 7 times Earth's gravity. And then Rias actually went at full force trying to keep up, but only was able to handle 3 times Earth's gravity. The way Issei set the bracelets up, basically, it would put you to where you're fighting at your limit trying to keep up. But Asya, she was struggling only at 2 times Earth's gravity, and Issei threw 2 of his own chains on it, saying the most they can go to is 10 times Earth's gravity. So they were all kind of surprised, because Kiba was basically moving super slowly, and Konako was even struggling to walk forward at only 9 times Earth's gravity, which is why I'm actually changing her number too. Though surprised at everyone taking that much, they noticed that Asya was barely even able to move at 2 times Earth's gravity, which Issei, who had 4 bracelets on, 1 on his arm, 1 on his foot, 1 on each arm, and 1 on each foot, saying, well, I can handle a lot more than 10 times Earth's gravity. And if you have more than 1 bracelet on, it'll basically just add up the number and just multiply it times that. Noting that all he had was 4 bracelets on himself. Now, he was walking his normal thing, but they were completely surprised when what they saw happen. They see Issei just walking with a heavy bag, bigger than Konako's, all the way up the hill. He's struggling the least out of everybody. And then he actually pulled another bracelet out of his pocket and put it on his wrist, and it went basically up and set it to 4, so he would struggle as much as everyone else. And he was dead even with them, and they all basically barely made it to the training camp. And Rias thought she was planning on some brutal training, and then Issei basically said, alright, you can take the bracelets off now. And they said, how do we take them off? And then Issei just straight up said, all you have to do is press this thing on the side. They would press it and it would just fall off. Boom, and hit the ground. And they noticed that whenever each of them fell, they were like, and were just saying, yeah, it was basically said so whoever was wearing it, well, after about a minute, it would turn off its gravity thing after being off of someone. It would still have that much gravity when it fell, so it'd be that many times Earth's gravity falling to the ground. And these things are indestructible. Even Issei can't break them himself, he said. And then he actually threw one saying, try to break it, Rias. And Rias, even using her destruction power, couldn't find a way to break it. Saying it would take at least maybe a Mao, it would take maybe her older brother to break this. And Issei said, yeah. And then he actually called Sona and them, saying, hey yo, could y'all meet us down at the base of the mountain? And they're like, wait, what, we're going back down to the base of the mountain? Yeah, we're just dropping all our stuff off and getting ready. Which, yeah, that was basically it. Issei throwing on a red tee, black Air Forces, and workout pants. he basically just super speeds back down to the bottom of the mountain. Kiba doing the same thing, having the bracelet in his pocket for when he needs it. They each all the way get back down there, and note that they've done some pretty good heavy training today. But then, they were super surprised on what happened. So yeah. They basically were told by them, as Issei basically picked up a bracelet and tossed it one to each of them, saying, y'all know how it works, put it on. As they each put it on, and then they see two more people show up, like, bring a ding 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 ding. And they're not in the underworld, they're in the real human world for this. So yeah. For their training, they're in the real human world, so don't be surprised on what's happening. As Kiryu, Mitsuda, and Motohama all pull up, saying, man, this place is so far away, my boy. I had to convince my family to help me teleport here. The other one's like, yeah, it was kind of a pain, and Aika's like, I just flew here via private helicopter. Through kind of private jet. And they were like, lucky? Whatever. As they all kind of put their hands in their pockets and said, alright, we're doing our training, as Mitsuda and Motohama both pull out three of these things, and then throw on that, then all set to 10, and then put that fourth one on their other hand. So they're like, alright. And that goes where they're basically at 9 on that last one. Aika is able to pull two out, both putting on 10. Noting, even the strongest among them, Koneko was only able to handle one bracelet, and they were surprised, saying, are you sure that's all you can handle, Koneko? Like, we all know about the supernatural world, so is that all? And Issei said, hey, don't judge them. They're actually doing pretty well. Remember when we first started training, running up mountains and everything? You guys couldn't even wear a bracelet to do it. And y'all struggled to get up the mountain. Oh, shut up, Issei. When you first started, you couldn't even go up a mountain. Fair point. Anyway, they do their week of training, and Issei actually still discovers the skill dress break, which he works with Aika and Asia for this one, on both of them. And then, boom, boom, boom. They kept doing it and doing it and doing it until, boom, he actually had a perfect skill. But he didn't really care about seeing people naked. He literally just would do that so they would basically cover themselves, so he would be like, surprise, and pimp slap of power, sending them to the next verse. Now, this was basically his ultimate move. Mainly just to surprise them for him to do that final attack. Now, this was that good attack. So, yeah. We're gonna end off it whenever they make it there and they're like, aight, we're gonna see that fried chicken. And he's like, man, it smells too much like fried chicken. Can we open a window? And they're like, oh, Issei, stop talking smack. And then Riser's still gonna threaten Issei, but Issei's like, bring it on, fried chicken. And this is where we end off for the first part of What If Issei had black hair